Welcome everyone to BRG 2020. We're excited to be part of the Blockchain Global Week. Today, we're going to be talking about a super exciting topic of reimagining the insurance industry by leveraging blockchain as one of the technologies. I had worked extensively with late Professor Clayton Christensen, and during one of those interesting discussions, he has asked this question as to why has the insurance industry not come closer to being disrupted. And we debated a lot and looked at a lot of data points over the years. And one conclusion that we actually came as the reason why the insurance industry has stood off or fended off any disruptive attempts has been because at different points of time, the industry has invented itself in order to stay core to its purpose, which is about addressing people's anxiety, B2B or B2C. So it's an opportune time for us to reflect back and then see what can be learned from what has been going on within the industry, and more importantly, how the industry is going to look ahead, especially in the context of what's going on when anxiety levels are through the roof due to the pandemic. I'm excited to have B3I, executives from B3I, which is a global industry-led blockchain initiative. It was founded in 2016 as an industry insurance consortium. It has 20 major insurers from 5 continents and a diverse community currently comprising of over 40 companies. From B3I today, we are honored to have Antony Elliot, the chairman and board of B3I. He is the group head of business transformation at Zurich Insurance Company. We have John Carolin, CEO of B3I. We have Alessandro Spadoni, the chief architect of B3I. We also have amongst us another great proponent of this technology and a disruptor by himself. No introduction needed for R3, David Rutter. R3 is an enterprise software firm developed in collaboration with their ecosystem of more than 350 institutions. David Rutter is their CEO. Their enterprise blockchain platform, Corda, has been transforming the entire industries by digitizing the process and systems that firmly rely on the ability to connect and transact with each other. TCS is a proud partner, strategic partner of R3 Corda. A number of our platforms and platform solutions have been developed on Corda. So we're going to look and examine from each other's views what future actually holds for all of us as executives responsible for helping our customers, helping our partners navigate not only through this current phase that we actually have, but to look forward to a brighter future. I will request each of them to share their initial point of view, and then we'll go into a more interactive session where everybody will be able to exchange our ideas. With that, let me call upon Antony to make his remarks.
Thanks, Lakshmi. So, yeah, when I think of a future of insurance, I really see as an industry where we're at the point where we see a lot of change coming. I think a lot of that disruption you were talking about, I do see coming, and I see 2 major drivers for that. One is the sort of change of customer expectations, and we're surrounded by a world of hyper convenience. Whether that's booking your holiday, maybe we're not doing that for a little while with COVID on Airbnb, or ordering whatever you want from Amazon. People are used to just a sort of seamless experience, and I think that's something which not in all instances you're getting at the moment in insurance, and that applies, of course, in personal lines, but also applies to commercial lines when we look at our corporate customers as well. And then also we see a sort of radically changing risk landscape, whether that's about sort of more NatCat perils, whether it's around climate change, whether it's around the sort of socio-political changes which we see in the world, or with this sort of move towards more digitization, kind of more sort of cyber risk. So there's a lot kind of going on in the industry, and I think that gives us a great opportunity to digitize. And when I look at this, and I guess this is both with my B3I hat on as well as my Zurich Insurance hat on, it gives us a great opportunity to transform. But I think technology is always the means, not the end. So we're not using technology for technology's sake. We're using technology to make the insurance industry more customer-centric, more efficient, more effective, and to enable us to be able to do things faster, cheaper, and better. Right? And I think I would call out a couple of specific technologies. So, I think AI becomes really almost, but it just becomes, part of our normal way of doing things. But I think it enables us to be able to deal with all the unstructured data which sits around us as an industry, whether that's text, whether it's images, and also then to kind of use much more sophisticated algorithms to drive better decisions. I think we see the impact of IoT, of sensors, and this can be in personal lines, where of course we see in all of our lives the number of sensors we have in our homes, it radically going up, but also from an industrial perspective. So I saw a stat today, I think only 3% of machines in corporate environments are smart at the moment. So there's a massive opportunity to kind of get smarter machines. So whether that's around machines, whether around buildings, huge potential to actually kind of use that to provide insights around the risks and to prevent and detect claims. And of course, and we'll talk lots more about blockchain, but I think this can be an underlying platform really to enable the transformation which the insurance industry needs. And particularly as we have multiple parties involved in many cases with the insurance industry, it can enable us to actually transact amongst ourselves, but also with our customers and with others in the supply chain.
Interesting. John, would love to hear about B3I and some of its recent achievements.
Thanks, Lakshmi. There's so much to cover. So thanks for asking the question. Let me talk about stuff that's been going on recently. So in the last month, we've recently released version 2 of our reinsurance solution, formerly known as Cat Excess of Loss. It's now B3I Re. Importantly, that change in name reflects that it is a proposition not just for the contract type and the risk of natural catastrophe, but it is for all lines and types of business. There's some significant developments under the hood. So this is built on top of Fluidity, which I think Alessandro is going to talk a bit about later. It's our insurance industry operating system, but it also moves beyond placement. We now have technical accounting capability built into this application. In the next release, we will have claims handling functionality, and we're really moving to that end-to-end solution where once we touch payments, we've really closed the loop on reinsurance contract administration. And working together with our stakeholders, we believe that we can, an end-to-end solution that is enabled by DLT really is a paradigm shift away from heterogeneous systems integrated via messaging, which is the sort of current state of the art. And we can unlock operational efficiencies that single solutions can't do alone, particularly when it comes to matching cash, the removal of the need for reconciliation. So we're really excited about this product that is also now enabling integration to existing systems via API. And we're excited about what the next few months will bring with the B3I reinsurance solution. But I think reinsurance is only one of the things we do. Much of what we originate through the reinsurance solutions is relevant for commercial insurance. We're working on commercial insurance propositions, which we expect to deploy in the upcoming months. We have a number of market solutions as well as customer-sponsored projects that we're working on. So there's really a lot going on at the moment. About 6 weeks ago, we announced RetaBlock, our first third-party application that is being deployed to the B3I ecosystem. So these are very, very exciting times for us, and I look forward to us really executing on our strategy to have a functionally rich ecosystem developed by third-party application developers, developed by strategic partners that ultimately provide end consumers of insurance faster, better insurance solutions.
Exciting indeed, John. I think I have no doubt that B3I consortia and the way you have gone about developing this would be the benchmark, if not already, for other ecosystems to potentially pick the good stuff from. David, moving on to you. I know Coracon 2020. I'm sure will remain in your memory forever. The way we did it. Reflections from that and. Corda has been the darling of, I would say, insurance industry and blockchain. So your comments and views, please.
Well, first off, thank you for having me on. It's great. Lakshmi, we've worked so closely together over the years. It's great to be here with TCS. And of course, B3I is one of our most important partners. And I have a ton of interactions with that group. So thank you very much. As far as reflections on CordaCon, I was joking earlier about it's been a pretty hectic week. I mean, a lot of, for us, especially in the, if I can still call R3 a startup, although we're about 375 people now, we're still trying to be, every week is a little bit hectic, but this was especially hectic. So when the alarm went off this morning, I was reminded of that. But given the fact that it was completely virtual, I was really pleased. Our group are a bunch of pros, and they did a great job on the production side. One other reflection is that when it started, I was, for me, it's such a great event because I get to meet, all my friends. I remember I was watching when John was on screen. I'm like, yeah, there's my boy John, and he was on with a bunch of my other friends, and I missed, not seeing everyone for a drink or at the event physically, but I underappreciated the advantage of global inclusion by a fully virtual event. So we started things much earlier with Asia. So Asia was much more involved in CordaCon this year than it has been in the past. So there were some advantages, and I'll be honest, I don't think we'll ever, go back to strictly a physical event, or hopefully never a strictly virtual event either. So there was some good stuff there. And then the other thing too is that it was our 5th CordaCon, and every year we've seen more and more of the content shifts from kind of R3 internal to what you folks are doing, what our partners are doing, which is great. So I learned a lot. I have to deal with a bit of information overload, but it was just a great week. And again, thank you for including me today.
Absolutely. And your views on the insurance, I'm sure we'll come back and talk a lot more about it, David, but anything that pops up in your head based on what you've been seeing over the last year and anything recently?
Well, sure. I mean, insurance was kind of one of our first key verticals, the way we look at it. And, we're just an enabler. We're a facilitator. But it's interesting, some of the things Antony and John said already. We help facilitate solutions at the industry level. And if you think about insurance, it's an industry where even competitors, because of the way they syndicate risk, and you think about all of the parties in the paper that's involved. So it's just like a kind of a perfect use case for Corda. And, I didn't recognize that when we were first building Corda, but the insurance industry kind of sucked it up very quickly. And then the other thing I've said, and I'm interested whether the insurance experts think this is true or not, because I've said it a few times. It kind of feels like insurance just kind of skipped part of the digital evolution, and so they're still a very paper-based industry. So in some ways, it may make it easier for them to reimagine their industry by using these new technologies. And like I said, we're just here to facilitate their success.
Wonderful. Good segue into Alessandro. I think the relevance of technology, and we know a thing or two about technology at TCS, but would love to hear your views on how you've seen the adoption of this technology and how tuned are some of the leading companies in being brave enough to adopt some of this next gen tech.
Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi. My perspective is it's clear that DLT can offer a lot of advantages if you take a single use case, but actually the The big advantage comes with DLT when you really leverage the full extent of the network effect. So, where you're solving problems not within a single silo, but across a whole value stream, I think the benefits can then be exponential. I think the early adopters right now, our partners have been, let's say, committed to a systemic transformation in the reinsurance industry, and we hope that continues. But we think one of the dimensions that's maybe more challenging is because it is a network problem. You need to get to that tipping point, that critical mass. We think that will be, let's say, early adoption in niche markets, which will slowly grow the network, solve a discrete problem within a small group of insurers that are working together on some line of business, until eventually the network is big enough that we can start to really make some of the systemic changes that will be, that deliver all those exponential benefits. That's how I see it.
Great. I think one of the questions, and then we can, freely exchange views. Very often we get asked about, the ecosystems, and TCS has been part of, some of these ecosystems, and we have been curating, some of these with our partner customers. One tough question that always get asked is, how is this possible for companies that actually compete in the market to come together? Yes, there have been consortia that have actually existed, but we're going beyond just one or two companies coming together, or a few companies to the scale that which now B3I is, and we want to scale that. So your views on what is the incentive mechanism to keep competing companies together as part of the consortia? Antony, if you may start.
Yeah, and I think so. The initial, I think the initial dialogue was driven by the technology, right? So there was a sort of I suppose, an interest in the technology, and say, hey, what's this blockchain thing? What could we do? And I think it started really with a roundtable of sort of tech guys saying, well, what can we do with this? And I think fairly quickly we realized, actually, by applying it, we can actually start to solve some of those industry challenges, right? And with my Zurich Insurance hat on, there's tons of stuff we can do using AI and using IoT to actually kind of make insurance fast, cheaper, and better. But there's some things where I can't solve it on my own, right? We need to actually work across the industry to understand how can we standardize things, how can we build the right kind of protocols. So I think it was that kind of realization, and I think we've really seen that there's been a very good willingness to work together to achieve those kind of results, and that's brought us from those early days through to kind of having B3I as a company owned by 20 insurers and reinsurers today.
Okay. Any other thoughts in terms of what was the glue that brought it together?
John, you look like you're ready to go. Go ahead, and then I have a comment as well.
Just have to unmute. Still haven't learned so far, so deep into 2020. I still have to unmute. So yeah, I have a perspective on this. I sort of sit between these collaborative competitors. Really interesting place to be, and I think touching on what David said earlier about the insurance industry maybe skipping or missing out on initial wave of digitization, and Antony talking about the technology. I at the outset with B3I asked the question of why is this different from other efforts using different technology, risk exchanges that were set up, and various aspects to automate parts of the insurance value chain. And I think there is a common thread of the industry trying to solve some of these problems and making some headway. So you can go back to the 80s. There was something called LIMNet, the London Insurance Market Network, ReNet, which was a reinsurance network, both arranged by IBM. Then there was an organization called WISE, which became Accord, which has developed standards that have the industry has worked together to do this, and they've moved the needle. But this is an industry where admin doesn't scale because of the scale very well because of the many parties in these syndicated transactions in commercial and reinsurance. And I asked the question of one of the early stakeholders of B3I, why is this different? And he said the technology is really interesting. It can solve for some of the trust issues in an industry where data is the lifeblood of an industry. So someone operating a risk exchange previously had a problem that they could see pricing information that was proprietary. So ownership by the industry or some industry participants was problematic, and the technology solves for some of the trust issues around that. But what he really said is the scale of the problem in the insurance industry around how we interact has now got to the level that this has my CEO's attention. We used to make our money on the alpha of our asset portfolios, and we didn't need to worry about operating efficiency in the same way. But with the sort of returns in the market from the last decade, we've looked to optimize costs at an individual company level. We've got shared service centers, and we've done what we can. But we now have to work together, because these are not things we can solve alone. And so we sit. I sit with these 20 shareholders from 5 continents. What is 50 companies that have contributed to the B3I project over what is starting to approach 5 years. That's a long time in blockchain years. We've got fit for purpose technology in Corda to solve the problem. We've got the deep expertise that we've been able to pull from our shareholder companies to solve these complex problems. And there's momentum behind what we're doing, because there is a real need to solve this now before it gets solved by other people with access to distribution capability, large amounts of data to price risk, and that listen in on our homes, own the browsers that we use, and can distribute products pretty easily. So there really is a pressing need for the industry to address this challenge now.
So Lakshmi, if I could just add, John touched on the fact that there's been a lot of optimization done at the firm level. And the way this kind of started is you could now start thinking about, okay, how could we optimize at the industry level? So what middle and back office kind of non-proprietary operations do we all do at great expense, that if we could share data or share a process in a way where I had complete confidence that my confidential data was protected, okay, then you can begin to think about ways to share the costs of these processes, and they don't differentiate you amongst your competitors or to your customers. Okay, so in my view, that's kind of how it started. And then you start thinking about it and you think, okay, wait a minute, so that's fine, we can eliminate some of these redundant middle and back office services, but in sharing data in a way where it's defined by a formula, by a smart contract, so I can go in with complete confidence. I share precisely the data I want in the way I want, and I make sure that my competitor doesn't have access to it. All of a sudden, as an industry, we can build these data-rich sets that we can do so many things with. We can eliminate fraud. We can make better judgments on risks. We can syndicate the risk better. And I think that the executives that run these businesses are extremely smart. They're not doing this because, hey, blockchain is cool, and I want to have I want to mention blockchain in my next annual meeting. They're doing it because they want to drive their businesses to be more efficient. To Anthony's point earlier, I think blockchain is kind of what supercharges the IoT and the AI world, because you now have provenance of data. Smart contracts can determine how the data you get from those IoT points is used in a logical way. And so, like I said, very smart executives running these businesses, that's not lost on them. And that's kind of the journey that I've seen in the insurance business. Absolutely.
And I think, you talk about the integration of multiple technologies, and we had an interesting proof of value that we demonstrated in India by using drones and collecting the crop data for determining crop insurance. We are still a long way out in terms of accepting that these small objects are going to be, flying all around us. But, it was an absolutely, great conversation when we had with the executives of this insurance industry, as well as, with the government, local government and municipality, for giving the required permissions to be able to do it. we are amazed at the ability of decision making that can happen when you have such accurate information coming in without having to be mediated by multiple parties, which then actually introduces the red tape and bureaucracy in it. Alessandro, I think most people who know B3I will definitely know Fluidity, but would love to hear from you as to how this platform evolved, and how do you get the different member firms to so to speak, define the roadmap. And at TCS, sometimes we struggle in order to get the requirements as to exactly what one customer wants. To multiply that by 20. How was the journey?
Yeah, Fluidity is our platform / operating system. In fact, when we conceived of Fluidity, we had the idea to call it the insurance industry operating system, but it sounds a bit too close to iOS. It may have infringed some trademark, but anyway. It actually was born for two reasons. One, we were building the reinsurance solution, and we discovered in that process actually 80-90% of what we were building was really common. It wasn't specific to insurance. We realized actually pretty much all of this could be used for lots and lots of different types of products and lines of business and insurance processes. And so we started to push those capabilities into the lower layers of our architecture, into our stack. And at a certain point, we said, well, guys, we've got a platform here. Let's draw a boundary around that, and we will call it Fluidity. Secondly, it was also driven by a vision that we had for a fully interoperable ecosystem of lots and lots of different applications provided by not only B3I, but a rich network of application vendors that could fully interoperate and share single sources of truth, not just within one application that's distributed to many participants, but across a whole ecosystem of applications. And this is where we see this exponential benefit of single source of truth across the whole network. That's how the let's say the platform vision was started. In terms of what we offer in the platform, we offer a couple of things. One, services and components to enable B3I to manage the network, and also for our members to participate in the network. So these are services like membership, Node as a service, and also some professional services that help our members onboard quickly. And this allows then potential partners, when they come in to build an application, not to have to think about the challenges of standing up and operating a business network on Corda. These things shouldn't be underestimated. It's a fair amount of effort. We want our ecosystem of partners to come in, identify a common problem in the industry, and get about the business of delivering that solution without thinking of all of that, thinking about all of that stuff, and deliver value very, very quickly for their customers. The other thing that we offer in the platform, we offer reusable components that allow you to build those applications more quickly. So all that stuff I mentioned earlier about the common stuff that we factored it into the lower layers, and we have a bunch of stuff that you can reuse off the shelf, things like Messenger, document management. And then one of our core components is something that we call the risk transfer language. It's a common domain model for the industry, and this is the enabler for the interoperability. I always use the metaphor of telephony. When you think about telephony, started with lots of segmented, fragmented networks. And there were farmers in the Midwest of the US that were joining their farms together on fence wire, and they could certainly talk to each other miles away, but they couldn't talk to anybody in New York, or certainly nobody in Europe. And then those networks came together, and that's kind of what Corda's brought. Especially in conjunction with the Corda network, it means that if I want to do a business transaction with you, I can find you, I can discover you, I can dial your number, and your phone will ring, and you'll hear my voice, and you can trust that it's definitely my voice. What it doesn't solve for, though, is if we're not talking the same language, we're not going to be able to do much business together, right? We'll need a translator, and that translator has to interpret what I say, convey it into your language, and you interpret. And this breaks down let's say the provenance and the trust and the single source of truth. If you have to do that, you've broken it, essentially. And what we've done is we've realize the risk transfer language is that common language that allows you to share facts across lots and lots of different applications, such that they can be, let's say, insurance data can be consumed in a reliable way as a single source of truth. And you can imagine that across that ecosystem, let's say a primary policy that is being seeded into a reinsurance contract. If a claim hits that primary policy, any of the data that's contained within that claim and within the policy can be shared as a single source of truth without any translation, and then you can get enormous benefits of removal of waste, reconciliations, and all of that good stuff.
Brilliant. Yes, I think the commonality and ability to appeal to that from the executive level to to all the way down to the technology aspects, I think has been certainly the standing out aspect that we have observed. We've looked at as TCS multiple ecosystems, and as I mentioned, we are curating some of them. And one of the big, I should say, advocating principles that I personally champion as well is, let's look at all the ways for the ecosystem, make the ecosystem easier to participate than to replicate. Now, there are other examples such as trade finance and payments, in the banking and financial services segment, where there are definitely competing ecosystems. And it's good to also have an element of competition, but truly the network effect comes in when you're able to make or curate and build the ecosystem in such a way that it makes it absolutely frictionless for entities to either join and co-anchor, or to participate, or to provide services. So I would love to hear your views in terms of what has been done in order to keep that ability to attract members. John, I'm sure there are efforts to scale the network as we speak, as well as would love to hear from others. What can we do in the future to evolve B3I as as the ecosystem that everybody would love to participate? Antony, if you want.
So, yeah, again, I was struggling with mute. So I think we touched earlier on reaching critical mass, and I think when I arrived at B3I, one of the things that I found quite unique was that we have within our sphere of influence amongst our shareholders and collaborators a natural network. For our first product, they are business partners of each other's. We've got the seeders and the assumers of risk, and so around that initial product, we're able to get a fairly large volumes onto the network. But that, as Alessandro has alluded to, that product is just a microcosm of a bigger industry, and there's a lot of the generalized components that we build out of that are relevant to our commercial insurers. The cedents on the reinsurance product, they're relevant for them on the assuming side in commercial insurance. So I think out of that niche, we're able to grow the network with products that we can get to market quite quickly. But I think where B3I needs help is the insurance industry is large and complex. It's a $6.5 trillion a year industry by premium. There are 8,000 insurance companies globally. Reinsurance is sort of a global market that's fairly standardized. Again, a good place to start for that reason. But once you start moving into commercial insurance and personal lines retail, there is a lot of regional variation. There's a lot of regulation based on geography, and that's where B3I can only do so much. And we want to be the enabler for partners with global reach, for local partners to create specific applications and solutions that are relevant to the market. But out of the kernel of the group that we have that are significant role players in the global insurance industry, we're able to sort of springboard to that with the help of the right partners.
Yeah, I mean, what we can't do is get those 8,000 insurance companies into a room, right? So I think the trick is to find the right group, right? And it's a long way from 8,000 to say, okay, well, let's chunk down this problem to something which we can solve, to really kind of figuring out what that MVP is. And I think it's tricky with DLT because of those multi-sided transactions. You've got a few more people to sort of align around what those requirements are. But I think if you can keep it to a smaller group, it'll help us to sort of actually figure that out and make the problem statement small enough so that actually we can deliver a solution which is meaningful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, guys, especially for an ecosystem that large, B3I has the critical mass. They have the key players, and if they define and build a good product, others are going to buy it, want to participate, want to use the software. So there's no better way to attract additional folks to the ecosystem by building compelling solutions.
Mhm.
David, I want to just ask another question. In fact, came up in our discussions with some of the insurance industry majors when I'm wearing the blockchain hat and talking about it by saying, hey, look, there is a good risk that some of the intermediaries could get disintermediated, and this industry has thrived on its ability to have purposeful intermediaries. So I know R3, Corda is designed to do a lot of these automation by bringing together multiple entities. So how have you kind of addressed that anxiety to say, are there going to be entities that are going to be disintermediated?
So realize we're just the software provider, and when I first set up R3, our cap table is pretty diverse. We have a lot of financial institutions. And for a private company, it's huge. We look more like a public company. But I made it clear from the start, I can't possibly predict what this software is going to do to various industries. So, will there be displaced parties as a result of this? I'm sure, but that's natural in all business. It depends on the value of the service that you're providing, and if you're just kind of helping shuffle paper around, I'd be a little bit nervous about it. We set out to, empower industries to improve and collaborate in ways that was previously impossible. We don't, target particular sectors or industries. So I think that might be maybe a better question for the insurance experts on this panel as to where they may see their industry change as a result of our software.
Yeah, absolutely, David. I'd appreciate the opportunity just to touch this topic. I think we face the question about intermediaries fairly often, and B3I has this philosophy of being by the market for the market, and that means the whole insurance industry. That isn't just insurers or reinsurers. It's insurers, reinsurers, brokers, customers of insurance, vendors. We're really there to build a better insurance industry, to let people focus on where they create the most value. And I think one of the missteps that has been made in the past, and I had a business before this, which was a multi-sided marketplace. And what I underestimated in some of what we did was the importance of human relationships. And again, I sit in this privileged position between these various stakeholders, and I think talking about reinsurers, they sit sort of at the top of the information pyramid when it comes to risk, but it does also make them a little bit abstracted from customers. They sometimes a little bit like academic institutions, the way they think about global risks, and they might see they see the customer as a little bit of a commodity because they're one step removed from it. And you've got brokers who look into the whites of the eyes of the customers, that are experts at giving advice, that provide a lot of comfort to people who need to take risk management decisions and guide them through that process, that really generate genuine value for them. And they likewise sometimes see capital as a commodity. And I think the truth is somewhere in between, and the technology itself is agnostic. What one needs to do is find the people that want to leverage it to amplify their value and create an impact and drive the change. And so at B3I, what we see as our stakeholders, we see them as collaborative competitors that are taking the lead on defining what the future of the insurance industry would look like. And we want that to be open and inclusive of everyone. And the intermediaries provide a lot of value in matching risk to capital and dealing with people and bringing their expertise. But I think they will also be the first to admit that no one benefits from unnecessary admin. And if we can find ways to solve that, let's work together to do it.
Yeah, I'd like to think, John, that some of the insurers are not too academic and rather customer focused some of the time as well. I know Connie Culture, our Chief Customer Officer, would like to think so for Zurich as well. But I mean, I think to answer the question, say, is B3I about disintermediating brokers? Easy for me to say. The answer is no, right? So that's really not the place. Where we do see that there is absolutely a role for them. Now, can we as an industry do a better job of allocating capital to risk? Yes, right, and that requires all of us to look and see how can we transform ourselves, do a better job for our customers. And I think that's how we need to work together as an industry, including those distributors.
Yeah, interesting. I think certainly we'll take some of these, in my next conversations with the executives. Enriching to actually hear that. Alessandro, I just wanted to touch up on the ability for the platform to scale. I know John said it's now moving from catastrophe to commercial. So what's the scope of fluidity for beyond P&C? How are you looking at the future of the platform?
Well, I think what's important here is that we're evolving the platform in reaction to the needs of the products that ourselves and our product vendor partners are building. So we're not taking the approach with fluidity of we'll build it first and they will come. We're trying not to spend a single dollar on any features that we don't have a direct need for, and that includes B3I's need as well, because we continue to build more products. So that's the first thing I would say. In terms of what's on our immediate roadmap, we're looking at some let's say some niche reinsurance markets where we're taking what we currently have in B3I Re, and which is, as I said earlier, 80% is in the platform, and very, very quickly getting those to market. We're already seeing the benefits of the reuse in fluidity around that, and how quickly we can deliver these next products. We're currently mobilizing a project around commercial insurance. I'm not sure, John, how much we can say about that on this session. Actually, let's pause there a second. John, we probably should have aligned here, because I don't know what I can and can't say with regards to products. Maybe we should ask this question again. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, so I'd say I wouldn't name who the products are for, but I would say I would talk about when people can expect they will go in production and there'll be announcements.
Yeah, okay. Can we say something about risk data exchange at all? Is that something that we want to mention?
It might even be good to put out a call to action for anyone who's interested in joining the project, because this is being led. We're sort of fostering this, so I think that's fine.
Okay, Lakshmi, I don't know whether you want to cut in or something, or just ask the question again. It's up to you.
Let's read the question once again and then ask it. So Alessandro, I think it's exciting to see what the fluidity roadmap is for the current domain that you're serving. What possibilities exist for us to look at other domains?
Yeah, so as I said, 80% of what we built in the reinsurance product has been pushed into the lower layers into the platform, so therefore can be reused directly for other projects. I think one thing that's important to say is the evolution of fluidity is driven by the needs of B3I and the projects and products that we're delivering, and the products and projects that our product vendor partners are delivering as well. So we're not spending a single dollar on fluidity that doesn't have a known need. That's the first thing. We're currently working on the second B3I product, which is a special type of reinsurance in a particular market, and we're already seeing the benefits of the reuse that we're getting from fluidity, all that stuff that we used to build B3I Re on through an accelerated delivery timescale, which is really proving the whole platform vision. That's the first thing. One of the second projects that we're currently mobilizing at the moment is a risk data exchange for commercial insurance. This is solving a particular problem in commercial insurance, which is all of the participants having a common and reliable view on primary risk data. So it's things like where are my buildings, what are they made of, all of this stuff that drives the risk and pricing. And there is no coherent and consistent way to do this in the industry at the moment. So that one of the problems that the industry has is if you have a large commercial contract that's covering, let's say, a very, very big multinational company that have plant and machinery and sites all over the globe, they have to assemble all this data. It needs to get cleansed. It can't be fully trusted. And they get reinsurance from a very large global reinsurance company. If they need to get reinsurance the next year and they don't stay with the same carrier, they have problems in being able to share that data in a reliable way, even though it's been cleansed. We're trying to solve that problem, and it's a problem that hits a lot of participants, from large corporate customers to primary insurers and reinsurers. And I think we use this as a bit of an opportunity to offer this opportunity for collaboration for anybody that's listening to this that might be interested in this project.
Wonderful. I think that's a brilliant way to make an appeal to the wider audience. For those of you who are listening to this, please do note that this will be available for next 3 months for you to reuse or for you to cascade this. So I think it's pretty exciting. Summarizing some of the things that we actually heard today. The notion with which the consortia was started, though was technology based, or perhaps enthusiastic people coming together to talk about the technology. Soon, clearly talking about the commonality aspects of what could be done, which resulted in where we stand today with a successful application being launched earlier this year. Fascinating plans to scale up, and at TCS we are pretty excited about such ecosystems crossing the threshold of minimum viable ecosystem, minimum viable platform, and then starting to become a minimum awesome platform, which we are proud to be associated with in many of the ecosystems. So thank you everybody for these wonderful views. I'm sure, as I said in my earlier remark, this consortia, this platform, and this effort will truly be an inspiration for many such industries to come together and tackle some of the big challenges. More importantly, open up new possibilities. Thank you once again, and look forward to having this conversation continue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lakshmi.
Thanks, Lakshmi.
All right, that's a cut. Thank you, gentlemen. That was awesome. I think if